seriously, I didn't know that Nick Fuentes was really a Nazi lover.
Yeah.
I had him on over.
Yes, you did. All of you. Shut the up, you liars. Oh, I had no idea. The guy who says that he's a neo-Nazi was a neo-Nazi. So how was I supposed to know? Yeah. Anyways, who do we got next? Was it John Doyle, Jack Pacevic, Marjorie Taylor Greene's coming on?
You're a lot of things, Alex. An anti-Semite is not one of them if people have looked at you historically. I don't even think...
Oh, absolutely was. In that actual episode, he was being deeply anti-Semitic. He was talking about how he's against the Jewish mafia, how they disproportionately control a lot of the media and the banks. Like, he was just, no, he's straight anti-Semitic. Yeah, there's no two ways about that. So are you, by the way. That's probably why you can't recognize that. Yeah, anti-Semite usually don't recognize anti-Semite. That's probably, yeah. So you probably just think, oh no, it's normal for me to say these kind of super up racist things. Okay, so, with this whole yay thing, and the neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, and now just the absolute dumpster fire that has unleashed itself upon the world, there was this initial movement, because everyone felt a little more safe on the right, starting to ramp up the anti-Semitism, the casual anti-Semitism, just a little bit more. It felt like, it feels like a door has been opened. And you can chart this. So there's the initial Tucker Carlson has Ye on the show, and that's during the White Lives Matter fiasco with Candace Owens. And he comes on Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson gets his moment where he's like, white lives do matter, yay, cheer. And then everyone was like, okay. But then that leaked stuff came out that apparently Ye was saying super anti-Semitic stuff, and they had clipped that out, but Tucker Carlson still felt fine putting Ye out there. That's exemplary of what this has been nonstop. It's been, wow, how can I use this to my advantage? First, Alex Jones thought it, then he told Milo, and then Milo and Nick Fuentes banded up. But once they all got together, it was like, okay, finally, this is really good. We can use this as an opportunity to really normalize casual anti-Semitism. Because that's the way we want the current discourse to be like. We want people to just be able to be like, well, I mean, we should be able to ask why so many banks are run by the Jews. Like, we want that to just be a normal kind of thing that people can talk about. And someone's like, whoa, not right away. Like, we want to, that's as much as we want now. Okay? There's a project. We don't want, like, I love Hitler. That's so far down the road. That's like, that's in my lifetime, but we don't want that right now. But just for the time being, for this little teeny section here, it would be really nice if we could just do that. And so all of them try it, and things got way out of hand. Tim Pool thought he could handle this conversation, and I'll be able to show everyone that I'm in the center. I'm a milquetoast fence sitter. I can control this. I'm really good at what I do, and I'll push back if they start saying anything that's anti-Semitic. Well, I might wait a while. I might actually wait a really long time. I might actually wait till it gets all the way to the Jewish question. At which point, then finally, I'll be like, well, I don't use they in the same way that you use they. And he's like, well, what do you mean they? It's like, oh, well, by they, I mean like the corporate media. And he's like, yeah, exactly, the Jews. He's like, yeah. And then he left, right? Also a disaster. Then things just got completely out of hand with Alex Jones. It's just like, now it's so far beyond what they were prepared to drop in terms of their masks. Like, this is like, Nick Fuentes is fine. He loves this. For him, he's like, it's exactly what I wanted. Alex Jones, Steven Crowder, they may be at the, like, we want things to go this far where we can just, like, ask a little bit of the Jewish question. Whereas, like, Nick Fuentes is like, no, I want us all to say, I love Hitler. We should all be saying, I love Hitler. It's great, right? Like, that's where he wanted things to go. And naturally, okay, so we're here now. So now the 180's begun. I don't know if Tim Pool and Steven Crowder got like some severe talking to from Google. I don't know what's happened in those behind the scene phone calls, but it really seems within a short amount of time, like Steven Crowder got extremely spooked. Because if you look at his timeline on Twitter today, it's all just like either ripping into Nick Fuentes, ripping into Ye, Alex Jones being like, I think Ye's gay. Yeah, I think he's really gay. And then being like Hitler was bad. We all hate Hitler. Could you imagine liking Hitler, like just like going nuts? His entire timeline is just panic mode, filled with all this like, I don't like Hitler, please. So let's see what he was saying a couple days ago before things got really bad.
And I honestly like Kanye, honestly, and I don't think he hates Jewish people. I really don't.
No, I don't think he hates Jewish people. I think he's been wronged, and I think that he's aiming sometimes a howitzer. He's being imprecise.
Right. Yes.
So again, in the timeline, this was before Alex Jones. So Alex Jones had not happened yet. And that was the point where, like, the dam broke. And then everyone was like, oh, shit, he's saying he loves Nazis and Hitler. No. Right? we just wanted to be able to ask parts of the Jewish question, or just be like, well, why all of media? Why do they control all of media? And you're like, they don't control all of it. But anyways.
But he's not wrong about everything. Look, is there a conversation to be had about secular humanists with Jewish last names in Hollywood exploiting people in positions of, the performance arts talent? Yeah.
By adding secular humanists, it's no longer racist. Yeah, now that part, it absolves me of my racism.
Yeah. And by the way, that happens in the conservative movement too, behind the scenes. Yeah. People sign contracts where they don't know what they're signing. Yeah, it's true. Is there a disproportionate number of people with Jewish last names in higher banking? That's an argument that can be made. But then when you get to it's because they're Jewish and all well, now we have a problem, not because it's offensive, but because it's inaccurate. So let me first set this up. Kanye West has been wronged. And I do think that this matters because it might provide some context.
And I honestly like Kanye, honestly, and I don't think he hates Jewish people. I really don't.
No, I don't think he hates Jewish people. I think he's been wronged, and I think that he's...
Okay, so that was him a couple days ago. He has now brought on the one and only Alex Jones to completely undo the damage that was done.
Be clear, before we have Alex Jones on, and we discuss this topic, do we all agree here? Hitler bad?
Yes, absolutely.
Good,
okay.
Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to,
You don't think things are fucked at this point that you have to do this? Is this not like a sobering wake-up call? Like, I mean, maybe this face, this one right here, he's kind of making the expression that I'm thinking, where it's just like, so what do we need for graphics today, boys? It's like, we're gonna do that whole, we have to acknowledge and say Hitler's bad. Like that's how far it's come. We actually have to say Hitler's bad out loud now. So I could make the Hitler's bad with the sirens at the bottom. Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
There we go.
Bad.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hitler bad, right?
That's the context.
And none of you are just keeping up appearances.
No.
We all genuinely believe
really bad
that Hitler was a bad guy. You know,
he was.
National Socialist, disarmed the population, big government, progressive.
Right.
Did you think that oh my god, do you think are you doing that thing? It has the word socialist in it. Yeah, it's got socialist in it, so that means it's socialism. Like you got your mind broken by an Alexa that was just like teaching you basic history. You're like, okay, so what is the Nazi Party? And then it's like, they were a far-right ideology. It's like, what? Far-right? What are you talking about? No, socialist.
Maybe that too.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a homo.
He's
And by the way,
have you ever seen Eva Braun? Come on.
One day blew his brains out, I think, after he was married. It didn't take long. It was
long.
worse than the war. So let's bring on Alex Jones.
We got the whole quagmire. I did find some just sick entertainment though.
No, I don't want to have to put my balls in a waffle iron. I would prefer that to watch any of your stand-up.
Oh, man. Well, I have to disagree with that.
I like Hitler.
I don't like Hitler. And I know you're trying to be shocking with that.
I'm not trying to be shocking. I like Hitler. I do not. The Holocaust is not what happened. Let's look at the facts of that. And Hitler has a lot of redeeming quality. Perfect answer for the ADL. They are going to have to listen up. What we did is we brought Netanyahu with us.
All right, we're seeing the circus.
No, I didn't. And I didn't say what he could talk about, but I said, can we just try to bring people together and talk about real issues like human trafficking and fentanyl and how you want to bring jobs back to America and really see the deeper side of you and not just sound bites. And they were like,
which of the snacks does he have? I see the won't tread on me, but that one kind of sounds like the, tread on me, mummy ones, where it's like, I want you to step on me. Like, ooh, yeah, tread on me. Like, oh, won't tread on me, ooh, ooh.
Yeah. In fact, he doesn't want to even get into that stuff. But then right away, sitting in the same studio I'm in right now, Thursday, bam. And I thought he was joking at first. And here's the deal. He pulled up in front of the office and got out of the vehicle in the GIMP mask. And so I didn't know what to say. And I said, pull your mask off. Let me see it's really you. And it was him. He puts the mask, he unzips the mask. And then it really creepy in person with the mask.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, really, I would see this as almost like a giant trolling operation. Really, he was super high on adrenaline when he did it. He feels really good about it. And I don't think has a very...
So, again, I explained to you the entire timeline because things went too far, because they just got carried away, out of control, even. That's why they're doing this now. That's why, like, well, I don't know. Maybe it was a troll job. I don't know if he actually believes it. Again, I think he just says he likes the Nazis because of the costumes. It has to be the costumes. I'm pretty sure it's the costumes. I really, really hope it's the costumes.
Good historical knowledge. about World War II either. So I mean, he really is in love with all of that design, which so much of what the Nazis designed ended up being brought over with Operation Paperclip. Right. So if it's bad that Ye says he loves Hitler, then it's even worse that our own government brought tens of thousands of Nazis in at the end of World War II to run most of the major agencies. So
sure.
Both
are bad, but I did notice that you tried to bring in the concept of I'm trying to remember the term Hitler. The man, was it the man yet to come? What was the man to come?
The coming man.
The coming man. And I remember, yes, exactly, the coming man. Sorry, forgive me, but it's something with which I'm familiar. And I remember you asked a very pointed question. You said you don't want to be that coming man, and it was very clear to me that regardless of where people line up here on any of this, and of course I'm anti-Hitler, and I know that you are, and I'm really glad the Allies beat the Nazis. He was not familiar with that, and so
like. Do you see how much they have to lay this on? Like, again, shouldn't this have been a sobering moment for all of you? Like, you all let things go way too far. Both of them. Deeply anti-Semitic. Incredibly. Like, for pay, for a career. They've been spouting anti-Semitic shit for a very long time. The clips are fucking endless. Even in the one with Ye, he was starting to dance around it, where he's like, oh, you know, I really don't like the Jewish mafia, and I agree with you, the Jewish mafia do control all the parts of Hollywood. And also, I don't understand why the Israeli government is trying to kill their own citizens with vaccines, is basically what they're doing there. So we gotta explain that. Like, you dance with this shit. It just, like... It went too far. Again, like that, it was way past where either of you were comfortable taking off your masks. And at that point, it was like, hey, Crowder, we got to do something. Can I come on to your show and say that I don't like Nazis? It's like, oh yeah, no, I'll say it too. I hate Nazis.
It does concern me that if he's going to go out and make these statements, were you concerned sort of understanding or being around his close inner social circle that they really aren't doing a good job in ensuring that he's informed when he goes out and discusses these issues?
He is very forceful and has a big personality, and it's really hard to get a word in edgewise, kind of like Trump. And people think I have a big personality, but I'll actually be quiet sometimes. And I'm not, putting him down for that. He was like a whirlwind. You couldn't shut him up. He was going to say what he was going to say. And I was bringing up historic, real things about the Nazis that my family, who were in World War II, told me about. Oh, that's true. We saw that in Germany, or we saw that in Italy. Again.
Yeah, you mean he was the exact same way that he has been on every other show that he's gone on, even though, like, you still saw this as a golden opportunity to exploit it for some kicks? To sell some dick pills?
Oh, my grandfathers almost died, both of them, World War II. I almost don't exist because of it.
Age of older.
They talked about what the Nazis were like, and my mom's dad also worked on some black budget weapons programs in the 50s and 60s, and just said that he'd been at some military bases that had Nazis on them, and they were very, very arrogant. And he didn't like having to work with them in some of these programs. So I'm like 8 years old, hearing my grandfather in Austin, Texas, sitting around the kitchen table bitching about Nazis and working on secret weapons programs and how arrogant they were and how much he hated the government bringing them in here. So that's a real thing that's going on. So my dislike of Nazis really comes from my grandfathers, who both didn't like them very much.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. What was it when you had, obviously there's the numbers aspect because he's a huge name right now in the media. What was it that you were looking to achieve, or what were you hoping would be the end goal? What would be the ideal scenario with this interview with Ye? Because obviously it went viral.
Oh, that one's hard. Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Across the media, but bringing him in, what were you hoping was going to come of it?
Warnock is a 13-point lead in the early vote. Hell yeah. NBC News in the Georgia Senate runoff early vote. Democrats have a 13-point edge, larger than the party's 8-point lead in November's early vote. Nice. That is good initial news. Nothing solid yet, but it's a nice little omen.
The projection in the final Senate election of the 2022 midterm elections, CNN projects the Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock will win re-election in the Georgia Senate runoff, defeating Republican challenger Herschel Walker.
Well, while I was listening to you do a great job at breaking down that this whole Hunter laptop thing and the Twitter files are a lot bigger than just Hunter Biden. It's everything they've been censoring. I was thinking, what do I want to say about Ye first? And it's just this. I really thought I could come in here and shut up at first and let him get it out of his system, even if he did it. Right. I was saying, hey, let's do something different. Let's show him your intellectual side. Let's get into a bunch of issues. And I had all these.
I love how Ye's the final boss of all these pundits. Like Tim, same thing. All that ego, false confidence. He's like, oh, I could definitely handle this. If I sit there, I'll be able to basically steer the conversation and save this whole thing. People are like, oh, the president met with the white supremacist and neo-Nazi. No. I'll fix things. I can do this. And then it's like even worse, infinitely worse after the Tim Pool parents. And then Alex Jones is like, whoa, wow, that was pretty bad. But hey, I have the skills. I'm Alex Jones. It's InfoWars. We'll save it. I'll do 3 hours of uncensored broadcast. You can say whatever you want and do whatever you want.
Issues in front of me. He goes, why don't you just set those aside? We're not getting into that. I was like, okay, he's letting me know he's in control. And so I figured after an hour at least he would let me kind of then bring up some topics I wanted. But you kind of had the salacious crumb, the baby Hitler of Nick Fuentes over there. That was a joke Jimmy Kimmel made. Like, where have I seen this before? And it's I'm Jabba the Hutt, and there's a salacious crumb sitting there. But seriously, I didn't know that Nick Fuentes was really a Nazi lover.
Yeah,
I had him on over.
Yes, you did. All of you. Shut the fuck up, you liars. Oh, I had no idea. The guy who says that he's a neo-Nazi was a neo-Nazi. So how was I supposed to know? Yeah. Anyways, who do we got next? Was it John Doyle, Jack Pacevic, Marjorie Taylor Greene's coming on?
The years 3 or 4 times whenever he was being debanked or censored, and he would be like, no, I'm not a Nazi. I just care about white people's rights. So I think this whole thing was a real...
And you were like, that was totally normal thing for someone to say out loud. And I just didn't even register to me. I was just like, yeah, seems unusual, but...
Coming out. And I'll be honest with you, especially with the Fuentes thing, and I'll still have Fuentes on. I believe the First Amendment, but there's a real creepy factor with this Hitler stuff. Then I also noticed that.
Yeah, no, we know you don't care about platforming Nazis. No, we know. All right.
Richard Spencer came out and said, "Yay, blew Jones away," because Jones is really controlled by the liberal narrative that Hitler's bad. But those of us that know the dark, powerful beauty of Hitler and of the darkness and of the strength, and it's like some homoerotic thing over Hitler. That is kind of what's going on. There's this.
So he's going to find a way right now to, again, ironically, do what the Nazis did, which is to vilify gay people and try to other them. So how can I make this out as if these people, they're ultimately really bad? Well, let's just say they're gay Nazis. They're not just Nazis. They're gay Nazis. And I hate Nazis. Just the Nazi part.
Hitler fetish. And no, I'm not into dudes in fancy, peacock military uniforms that, by the way, got 22 million Germans killed. So the biggest killer of Germans in history, if you like Germanic people, and I'm basically half German, have a lot of German roots, is Hitler. Hitler was a disaster. Hitler was an occultist. Hitler was a pedophile.
You're saving yourself in rapid speed right now. Feels like it's the save my career speed run. I mean, yours is pretty tanked. I'll say. I still think like Crowder saw this as I can take advantage of you because you just had that disaster of an episode. We'll both do a lot of I don't like Hitler. Hitler was bad. Hitler was a piece of shit. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'll tweet a bunch about Hitler bad. Don't like Hitler. Okay.
Hitler was horrible. Screw Hitler. Burn in hell Hitler. And the left uses Hitler to push their communist agenda that is basically just as bad and authoritarian to call all of us Hitler. And so people are so sick of being called Hitler, they go, hey, if Hitler's so powerful, let's just say we're with Hitler. And that's what these people are doing, and I felt like I was sucked in to a giant publicity stunt. Now I'm not mad at either person. I understand that they probably even believe what they're doing, but no, I saw a whole bunch of programs like the Young Turd.
I need a link for Hitler being a pedophile. I think it's because he started a relationship with Eva Braun when she was 16 or 17. Could look that up.
And all of them say Jones is just mad they let the secret out.
Yeah, she was a 17-year-old assistant and model for his personal photographer, Heinrich Hoffmann, and began seeing Hitler often for about 2 years later. Braun took many surviving color photographs and films of Hitler. So basically, he was trying to like groom her when she was 17 and then ended up starting a relationship with her when she was 19. Although it doesn't actually specify when she began seeing him. She says she saw him often about 2 years later. She attempted suicide twice during the early relationship. Jesus.
Jones likes Hitler. No, I hate authoritarians. I hate communists. I hate Xi Jinping. I hate Hitler. I hate Mao Zedong. I hate Joseph Stalin. I hate Fidel Castro. I hate Hugo Chavez. Yeah. I love George.
Guys, I mean, you're really lumping in a lot of different people right now. You can start with I hate Hitler, I hate Pol Pot, I hate Mussolini, and then anyone you add after that, I mean, you're going to be softening the blow of the first three if they progressively become figures who are like, well, that person actually. They didn't do a Holocaust. They actually transferred an extreme amount of wealth from some of the richest citizens in the country to the poorest. Well, either way, I mean, who's to say? Who's one person's Hitler is another person's Hugo Chavez.
Washington. I love Thomas Jefferson. I love American strength and freedom and power and Christianity and open societies and capitalism and free speech. And I want it back now. So burn in hell Hitler and Stalin and Mao. Burn in hell. That's what I told Piers Morgan. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. And if you try to take our guns, 1776 will commence again.
You are my yay right now. See, I'm you and you're yay. See, I think you have some empathy for what I have to do sometimes when you're on. By the way, Alex, don't do that thing where you Monday morning quarterback and take credit for it. Hitler was already in hell burning before you said that. Okay, that's not because you called for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But no. Look, I understand exactly right. At first, I thought you were going to say the biggest killer of Nazis were the uniforms, because that's how we went in. I thought you were going to say like the Hugo Boss uniforms were made of asbestos. But no, I agree with you. And here's the thing: you have people trying to defend it, saying, well, and there's validity to this. Kanye West said, "I love everybody." He didn't say he hated anybody. He said, "I love Jews, I love Hitler." But he did go out of his way to praise actions of Hitler while condemning actions of Jews in this sort of general monolith. And he did actively deny the Holocaust. So to act as though it was an equivalency of I love everybody, that's not what happened with that interview. Now, if people out there want to say, hey, he has every right to love Hitler, of course, and if you say I agree with him when he says he loves Hitler and that the Holocaust didn't happen, fine. But to act as though there was this equivalency, you know, on your show in its totality, sure, he said he loved everyone, but he did have specific praise for some totalitarian dictators.
Well,
and
he said, I love Hitler. I think he had an orgasm over there.
Well, that's just how he sounds when he raps. I love Hitler, ha! But he, it was one of those.
So now they've totally 180'd. It's completely reversed from before. Now it's no longer like, oh, well, you know, he's a musical genius. We need to bring him on. I think you were saying a lot of important things, and you've been canceled more than anyone. We have to talk about cancel culture, 1984, free speech. That's what this is all about. And then, yeah, so he shows up in the show, and then he's like, I love Nazis. And it's like, whoa, shit. Well, no, we don't say that. we don't say that part. That's quiet time stuff. That's, you know, inner circle things. We say that, you know, do the Jews control all the banks? That's the kind of things that we say. We don't go that far. That one's just like
things where, let me ask you this. Do you think that ultimately it kind of ends up hurting? It kind of ends up hurting people who are out there advocating for free speech when we're saying we are not Nazis, and the guy goes out and just puts on a mask and says, actually, I do love Nazis, and actually the Holocaust doesn't happen. It does make it hard for people out there because, look, you're a lot of things, Alex, and anti-Semite is not one of them if people have looked at you historically. I don't even think...
Oh, absolutely was. In that actual episode, he was being deeply anti-Semitic. He was talking about how he's against the Jewish mafia, how they disproportionately control a lot of the media and the banks. Like, he was just, no, he's straight anti-Semitic. Yeah, there's no two ways about that. So are you, by the way. That's probably why you can't recognize that. Yeah, anti-Semite usually don't recognize anti-Semite. That's probably, yeah. So you probably just think, oh, no, it's normal for me to say these kind of super fucked up racist things.
Many people have leveled that accusation against you. If anything, you've seen anti-Semites, people who legitimately hate Jews. And I don't mean people who don't believe that we should be sending a bunch of money to Israel. I mean people who legitimately hate Jews have accused you of being controlled Jewish opposition for a very long amount of time. So,
well, that's the thing. Yeah. And here's the deal. I don't like MS-13, but I'm not against Central Americans. I don't like the new Black Panther Party that's like a black KKK, but I don't blame black people.
LJ Steele, thank you for resubscribing.
So Jews are a very diverse group for anybody that actually studies politics and geopolitical systems. There's a whole bunch of factions in Israel constantly fighting with each other and assassinating each other. The Jews over there have some of the most draconian, vaccine rules in the world. If they're so special, why do they have all that? So it's really not true. Are there powerful mafias? Are there powerful groups in Hollywood that happen from a certain group? Absolutely. Do we see those groups supporting leftist garbage in the media? Am I irritated by those groups? Do I like the ADL trying to take our free speech? No, I'm a big critic of the ADL, and they single me out at their big events just 2 weeks ago with the head of Pfizer and 2 years ago with
Shapiro's favorite getting banned from country clubs. What? Ben Shapiro argues the government can't prevent people from banning Jews at country clubs or banning black people from restaurants. That's exactly what the government has done and can undo.
And again, you can make the case in 1965 that on a temporary basis, the federal government, as a practical matter, needed to be able to cudgel people away from bigotry. You can make that case. I don't make that case. I think that the federal government was perfect.
Like, he understands Jim Crow laws and, like, the apartheid system that happened in the United States, that those were enacted through policy.
Perfectly justified in going to the states and obliterating all of the segregation regimes that existed in the states. I do not think that the federal government had the power constitutionally or morally or philosophically to compel individuals
710,
not to engage in constitutionally protected behavior, even behavior I don't particularly like, for example, banning Jews at country clubs. I'm a Jew, not in favor of banning Jews at country clubs. I'm not in favor of banning black people from restaurants. Do I think that the federal government, had the power to compel the individual bed and breakfast owner to determine that the federal government could override that person's priorities in terms of who?
Wait, what does he think the Civil Rights Act was?
They had in their house? No, I don't think the federal government had that power. However, you could at least make the temporary moral case that this is something that had to be done in order to get over several centuries of blatant and evil racial discrimination. You can make that case. But the problem is that essentially that exception has now eaten the entire system of law, and the left knows it. And they are pushing this all the way to its limit. And if it were not for a conservative Supreme Court majority, they would get what they want, which is to obliterate all traditional religion from the public square, to shift it and mold it into basically a version of secularism with a tiny little cross on the side.
clean up your room.
No, I think you're allowed and you should be able to practice any religion you want to. I just don't think that they should grant you special powers or privileges. That's all. And like tax exemptions and things.
I'm evil. I'm dangerous. I need to be silenced. But there's all sorts of groups trying to silence my speech, not just the ADL. So it's really what it is with these groups is.
And by the way, to be clear, just so everyone say, when we say these groups, we mean anti-freedom groups, and we do not mean.
There's been so many corrections. By the way, we just want to state out that we in fact do not love Hitler, and we in fact do not love Nazis. We need to say that out loud. Okay, keep going. Yeah, please. That's how bad things have gotten.
Is a second-generation atheist. Okay, let's be clear about that. So to act
that's what
as
I just
though,
said.
yes.
I'm being 100% clear, but at the same time, I'm not saying you're doing this. I get you have to because they'll lie. I'm not tiptoeing around this. What I'm saying is I am critical of all of the anti-free speech.
Yes.
Pro-tyranny groups. Last time I checked, Tim Cook's not Jewish. He's working with communist China to suppress their people. Last time I checked, Xi Jinping's the biggest dictator in history. His communist regime, going back to Mao, has killed more people than Hitler ever thought about. They estimate 100 million. So, but again, I don't dislike Asian people. My sister is Korean adopted, and I love her. When I was 14 years old, we adopted her from Korea when she was 6.
Why is it always going to be? Yeah, I have an Asian sister-in-law. Okay, I can't be racist. Come on.
I love my sister. I love Asian people, but I am scared as hell of Xi Jinping and his 50 million man army, and I'm definitely upset about it. Yeah. And so, again, if there was some country with 1.5 billion Jews in it, and they were promoting freedom and like America used to be, I'd try to go move there. But if there was a country of 1.5 billion Jews promoting world government and death camps and forced injections, I would say I'm against that regime, not because they're Jewish, but because it's authoritarian. Same thing with Xi Jinping. I mean, it is the most evil regime in history. It is our main.
By the way, he doesn't get to use these kind of talking points. It's really deceptive because he has said on the show before completely racist ass backward statistics where he's like, hey, just so you know, black people actually kill white people at a ratio of like 10 times. And it's like, well, that's not true. That's what racists say to be racist. That's a racist conspiracy theory. That's the kind of Stormfront shit you would experience. But all right, Alex, I guess.
We're in grave danger. Yeah. And again, nobody says, oh, you don't like Xi Jinping because you don't like Asians. It's all a fraud.
Yeah, I hate the Communist Chinese Party because my heart goes out to the Chinese people. I think Gerald has a question for you, and I appreciate you taking the time because I know that was a tough seat to be in, Alex. There was a moment on your face where you looked like the Boom Goes a Dynamite kid, where you were like, I could tell that you wanted a break. I've been there. All right, Gerald, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to dive into the Christian thing just a little bit because people are conflating this Christianity thing with people on the far right that espouse these anti-Semitic views. And even Ye said, I love everybody. Well, and you said it too. You said not that you love everybody, that you're a Christian, right? Just declaring like, I am a Christian. I don't like these things. Christ said he loved the sinner but hated the sin, right? He always called people out for their sins. Just to be clear, did Kanye call Hitler out for any of his sins on your show?
Well, let's be clear, and that's what Kanye didn't get, which is why I'm not trying to put him down, but I don't think he
Capo,
has
thank you for the tier 1.
fifth grade education about the Nazis, and I'm going to try to meet with him again and actually show him some real history from Hitler's own writings. Because Hitler was anti-Christian. Hitler was an occultist. He wanted to eradicate Christianity. Some of the top Nazis in the party did. Now, later, when he took the country over, did some Nazis wear crosses
China,
on their
even though
shirts?
Infowars products are made in China?
Together. It's like you might have a Texas thing and then an American flag thing or an army thing.
Right,
or, Yeah, they co-opted it, and sure, the Catholic Church was taken over by the Nazis. I mean, they ran Italy, they ran Germany, so they went along with it. I'm not defending the Catholic Church, but the idea that Hitler was a Christian or that Hitler was born a Christian and all this stuff, Adolf Hitler was a deep occultist in his own writings, in his own words. That's why they used runes in.
I mean, my response to that is always like, what do you think was officially insigniaed into the belt buckles of all the Nazis? This is not as if you can absolve the association with Christianity or Christendom with, what was practiced and preached amongst the Nazi party itself.
Their uniforms, everything he did was about, once they had a worldwide Aryan master race in control of all the slave races, the Ubermenschen over the little slaves, the supermen over the slaves, they were going to eradicate Christianity. They wanted earth worship.
There's cultism, Christian-centered, and the cultism I associate more with him.
Now on Twitter of Ukrainian Azog battalions cutting themselves, getting in a tomb, a 6-foot grave, bleeding into the blood, getting out, hailing you-know-who, but they hail Odin, and then they go over and put their hands on Odin, they've all got swastikas on
their Wait, hold up. Is this Hassan superfan Jackson Tinkle before me? Like, what is this nonsense?
Chat rules.
Thank you again, Resonate. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that's wild. So I don't know what the Azov battalion is. I think he's referring to the Azov, and then yes, they are a neo-Nazi battalion. No friend of the Azov battalion here. I haven't heard about them using occultist powers to summon Satan as they basically rise from the Nazi ashes. But that one's new. First time for everything.
Arms. That's a real blood and soil Nazi ritual that Hitler invented, that the SS did. You see, the Azov battalion, they're doing SS rituals. They're not Christian. They're co-opted Norse, Germanic, Viking religion mixed with the Nazis.
Yeah, one of the other reasons that I know these groups are not Christian, Alex, is because the entire Bible from the very beginning to the very end is God's redemption plan for us, but specifically the Jewish people, and God is not done with him. He promises them an opportunity to come.
Okay, so today earlier, while the drilling was happening upstairs, and I'm just going to play you a quick second just so you know that I'm not talking shit. Like, this is what it sounded like while I was streaming for a little while, for almost like 3 or 4 hours. I don't want to curse it, it could come back. So super intense. And so my dog just stands at the door right there, staring at me like this. And it was just like, as if I had the power to end it somehow. And I was like, okay, all right. Well, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about this. You know, I'm like, if I could, I would, but you know, I can't. So that's just the reality of the situation. And then, like, you know how in scary movies, how sometimes the scary monster, all of a sudden it goes from like being there, and then you look away, you come back, and it's like, ching, like right there. He did that. Like I just turned away for a second, and all of a sudden he was that close to me. And again, doing that, like, can you please do something about this, Dad? Come on, Papa, help me, Papa.
Come back and have a final chance. It's the entire book of Revelation. Most of the Bible is about the redemption of the Jews. And so for anybody out there to espouse Christianity and say, I'm anti-Semitic and that this stuff wasn't bad, they haven't read the book. They are not amongst us. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. And by
yeah, so I don't think that Christianity causes Nazism, just like I don't think Nazism causes Christianity. But you can separate the fact that they use Christianity, especially devotees of Christianity, in both their propaganda and in terms of them talking about a divine people ordained by God, the master race. Yes, the Ubermensch, all that kind of stuff. It was part of the mythology. It's creepy and disingenuous for you to try to be like, those weren't the proper Christians. Those were the evil Nazi Christians. We are different than them, superior, if you will. The master race.
My final point on this was, you've talked about the history in World War II.
I live fifth. Thanks for the
Hitler
prime.
invented the microphone, and he did this, and he did this, and he did this.
He said highways, and the microphone that I'm using, I think he maybe means the Autobahn. Like, roads were around before Hitler.
They were, but I mean, his highway system, the Hugo Boss stuff, the rockets, I get all that. He doesn't mention the fact that he did things that would make the Egyptians blush with the people that they killed to build the pyramids. I get it, maybe aliens did it as well, but I don't think he understands how many people's lives were.
That's why they have to deny it. That's why there has to be a Holocaust denial component. And this is, first off, before I move on to this, because there's so much to unpack here, Alex, how do you think the press has covered it? And I don't mean you. I think that, I don't mean, of course, they'll try and tar and feather you, but I'm saying, do you think that the way the press has said that, hey, Kanye West, yay, on Alex Jones, went off and was very obviously incredibly anti-Semitic, do we think that in this case, was the press partially right? In other words, are they completely misrepresenting it? Or when you were sitting there, did you feel as though this is probably not productive for him?
Look, I like Kanye West. I like Ye. I think he really means well. I don't know if Nick Fuentes believes what he's saying and doing. Nick says a lot of really good stuff I agree with. Once I heard him endorse that he...
Isn't that kind of a tell when the neo-Nazi says a lot of things? It's just like, oh, whoa, coming out of the mouth of a neo-Nazi, strange. Yeah, okay, well, I mean, yeah, we're vibing here.
Thinks Hitler's great. I lost a lot of respect for him because I know Nick's really smart. And I'm not saying Ye isn't smart, but he's kind of a savant. And has a lot of talent and stuff. And so, yeah, I think in the long run, Ye wants to be a big revolutionary and wants to hit the barbed wire, as he said. He said, you're Terminator 1, we're Terminator 10. And I just really think at the end of the day that that's not the case. The left have adopted so many of the actual Nazi tactics of control and their whole system of lockdowns. What you see in China, big groups of people by the tens of thousands being marched together, being led by one Pied Piper in the whole white medical uniform. That's the real type ideology that the Nazis were striving for, and we know that
it's
Hitler,
the left. It's
and
Antifa.
Of course, Joseph Goebbels wrote about how this is public. They wanted to take over England and kill H.G. Wells and kill Bertrand Russell and others because the H.G. Wells and Bertrand Russell had a competing authoritarian world government leftist model that the Nazis were competing with, and they saw themselves, as you said, as socialists, but a different brand of it. And so I have.
So just to clear the air on that, at that time, the competing competitive political parties, against the Nazi Party, were obviously left wing. There was the Communist Party, there was the Social Democrats. This was, let's just say, their attempt at branding themselves as populist, while not, in fact, being socialist in any way, shape, or form. And then you can tell the fans of Crowder, they're like fucking, they're not having it. Like, he had to do this whole, Hitler bad, actually, fucking poggies. As a longtime fan, I have to say, I'm disappointed you're not discussing this with the nuance it deserves. The nuance of Hitler, there's no nuance. Hitler bad, very easy. No, not really. Okay. It's odd you kind of cultivated this, Crowder. He was bad, often for reasons few of his haters have ever even heard of. But Mein Kampf, though not entirely right, did make some valid points and should be in every library in its unedited form. Steven Crowderstein. Interesting. Interesting. It's just strange that you'd cultivate an audience like this, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the leopards, all the fucking racist leopards are eating my face.
Know for a fact that the left and the tactic, that's what George Orwell wrote in 1984 about. George Orwell was number 2 in the propaganda arm.
Fuck, who's got cancel culture bingo? Because I think one of you had to win
British
right now.
intelligence in World War II. He'd been a communist before that in the Spanish Civil War, been a hero and heavily wounded. But then when he actually got at the top of the British socialist society and recognized that actually Stalin was being funded by the West, there was actually a war against the individual in the future, and that Hitler had been wound up by British intelligence, not run by them, but actually built up and given power and funding early by the big banks. He realized that there was a global authoritarian system that operated under different names, but basically had the same goal, total power and control. And the reason I know that is not just reading 1984, probably 8-9 times, but I've read the writings, the essays in several big compendiums of George.
How have you read all this and not understood it? The thing is actually fucking a warning about fascism. Have you not picked up on that? Yes, authoritarianism. I know George Orwell was no fan of Stalin, as he was no fan of Hitler. But come on, did you learn nothing, sir? 8 or 9 times?
Orwell, right before he died in 1949, he finished 1984 like 1947. But he died about a year and a half later. And so George Orwell had this view of it as well. He thought the Nazis were the ultimate evil. He fought them before World War II in Spain and against Franco. And then he later.
He was about fascism, not communism. Well, actually about both, unfortunately. Because, yes, he did volunteer in Spain with Franco, and his book, Homage to Catalonia, probably his best writing. I would recommend that over anything else George Orwell related if you haven't read it. But Animal Farm is definitely a warning sign in regards to, the rise of communism. And that's one of the things about him. He was like, some people call him a democratic socialist. Some people call him a social democrat. But there's no question that he was further on the left that any of these assholes recognize. Every single one of them was always just like, 1984 cancel culture, groupthink, blah blah blah, Ministry of Education, double talk. Like, they have no idea what they're talking about. It's like that's not like, you don't realize what the purpose of this entire novel is, and yet you keep referencing it. You just think it means you can't say the N-word. You think he wrote the N-word book. It's like, yeah, that fucking George Orwell. He's the one that said that white people can say the N-word, right? Isn't that what he's famous for?
Learned there was a more evil group of Fabian socialist, British intelligence, basically Spectre, what you see in the James Bond
Stalinism.
movie.
I should be. Yeah, you're right. I should correct
James
myself.
Bond is Spectre.
Stalinism,
I'm not saying
not
all of
communism.
British intelligence, but that British empire model that merged with America at Bretton Woods, and then America became the world empire at that point. That system is full spectrum dominance, where they want to control all the major groups and then play them off against each other in a Hegelian dialectic.
Can I jump in here with 3 things? First off, I do encourage people. No. I do encourage people to go and research, Orwell, and also, by the way, the Catalonians, because this is something where people try and use it as an example of successful socialism, right? In the 1930s, say, oh, anarcho-syndicate socialism. Go read what happened with Orwell and read how that collapsed and the kinds of pressures, and basically there were still factions of warring socialists.
Wait, why do you think they had a lot of struggles? There was a dictatorship they were fighting. They were fighting Franco. That's why it had trouble. The Catalonians were part of his entire fucking ethnic cleansing project. He wanted to genocide the Catalonians. I say this. I have Catalonian relatives. That's the history. What are you talking about?
Because I was taught that in university. I was taught that in college. That was a good example of socialism, which lasted all but under half a decade. The other thing is, Kanye West said, if you're Terminator 1, he's Terminator 10. I don't think he understands how progressively shittier the Terminator sequels have gotten after Terminator 2. So that's actually a compliment to you. But here's something else. Look, you and I, know that I disagree with you on some things, and I agree with.
That's just so weird. It's like, yeah, they were like slaughtered by fascists. What's your point? Like, the same thing could be said about the USSR. The USSR slaughtered the fascists. Like, I know the US hates learning about that part in history, but that's just what happened. I'm sorry to say, it cost fucking more Russian lives than it did any other country.
On a lot, I disagree with you on some, but I do think you're very consistent in
your approach to
what you believe morally to be correct.
I don't want to watch Steven Crowder all day.
Some of the stuff that's going on with Ye, and I don't believe there's hate in his heart. Like you said, I think that there's probably some ignorance, because, and the reason I hold out hope is I see him. He's very pro-life, and he talks about eugenics, and he talks about Sanger and Planned Parenthood and the genocide that's taking place against black babies. But then he doesn't seem to draw the connection that is something, of course, that Hitler was incredibly enthusiastic about and permeated our abortion policies today.
Hitler said Hitler said Margaret Sanger's book was his Bible. Look this up. And they used the Margaret Sanger and the Cold Springs Harbor, New York, Rockefeller-run eugenics laboratory as their defense at Nuremberg, because it had been the Rockefellers and Margaret Sanger that helped set up the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute in the late 1920s that then funded Hitler and was the brain trust of the Nazi race sciences. So what you said is 110% true. And that's what I would try to tell him also once we got off air. So I'm going to try to meet with him sometime when he's not as manic. I'm going to try to explain to him.
Do you think he's manic? Can I ask you that? I know you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Did you sense? I've had bipolar people in my family. And he has said that he was diagnosed with that. Did you see maybe perhaps some signs of mania? And this isn't concern trolling, because I really hope he has people around him who are helping him and care about him.
No, I mean, I don't think he's mentally ill. I think he's enjoying himself. You know, they have all these diagnosis terms. I mean, I'm pretty manic. I have a lot of energy. You know, so does anybody that's successful. I don't know, but he did seem to be very, very. People can go to Infowars.com, because remember, yes, I'm more censored than anybody else out there. They can go to Infowars.com, and they can also go to band.video and find the full interview and actually see it for themselves in context. I can't bring myself to go watch it again because I can't stand watching myself, but I watched a lot of excerpts, and I just think what happened was he decided to go all the way. He decided to try to be as shocking as possible and say, screw the world. And then once he started pressing on the dopamine button of saying the things he said, he just couldn't stop. And so it became, you know, just a situation of redlining the engine the entire time he was on.
Yeah, it seems like that might be the case. All right, well, look, I actually do want to ask you about some things that we probably have to discuss on Mug Club only. Let me just leave this one thing, because I do think this is important. Because, look, we do know that you have many Jewish fans, I have many Jewish fans. And by the way, I don't just mean Zionists. I mean, there are Jewish libertarian fans who support Israel, certainly in contrast to Hamas and Iran, and people who want to wipe them off the face of the map, but think that we shouldn't be providing as much foreign aid. I don't believe that that's anti-Semitic. I do think it's important, and I think what happens is people are imprecise when they say Jews. It's very different from, for example, Black Americans, or if you mentioned sort of people from Mexican Americans. Jew can mean, a Jewish person can be.
Hey, I was taking a second to read up, because I've heard that before, but I've never actually looked it up. The entire, like, did you know that, like, Sanger, Hitler's favorite book was, by Sanger. Anti-choicers also like to claim that Sanger was closely associated with the eugenics program in Nazi Germany, while she may be loosely associated with the program in the same way that every American who promoted eugenics was loosely associated with the Nazis. The Nazis specifically modeled their eugenics law on California's sterilization law, not on Sanger's beliefs or writings. The United States, after all, led the world in compulsory sterilization until Hitler took up the practice. So before Hitler took over, the U.S. was number one. 1927, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Virginia's compulsory sterilization law was constitutional in Buck v. Bell, a seminally awful decision in which Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes proclaimed, 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. Wow. That decision set the stage for state after state to enact compulsory sterilization laws. By that time, the Nazis embarked on their eugenics program. More than 30 states had such laws on their books. It wasn't Sanger personally who influenced the Nazis. It was the United States as a whole. In fact, the Nazis were not fans of Sanger. Oh my god, they're just straight line. They even burned her books. As Gerald V. O'Brien points out in his article, Margaret Sanger and the Nazis, how many degrees of separation? Moreover, as Amita Kelly wrote in NPR recently, Sanger herself wrote in 1939 that she had joined the anti-Nazi committee and gave money, my name, and any influence I had with writers and others to combat Hitler's rise to power in Germany. Wow, that one's not only like liar, liar, pants on fire. It's like it's the opposite of that. Yeah, she was actually anti-Nazi in the end of it.
Jewish by faith, meaning they practice a faith. They can be Jewish by ethnicity, and they can be Jewish by culture. And to lump them all in, there is a very big difference between, yes, I do think there's a conversation to be had about the secularists in the entertainment industry. And if someone wants to conflate that with anti-Semitism, what they're doing is saying, oh, is it because you're saying because they're Jewish? No. I'm saying for the same reason that there are plenty of non-Jewish people in the entertainment industry who are involved with grooming, who are involved with, by the way, the degeneracy of society. The only reason that there tend to be people who are largely atheist Jews in the entertainment industry, or for example in banks, which compared to them as a percentage of the population is Jews, for the same reason.
But you're still doing it. You're doing the monolith thing. You're just being like, well, I'm not just Jews. There are different kinds of Jews, but it's still Jews. They control everything. They control the banks, the media. But it's secular Jews, Zionist Jews, all kinds.
But there are plenty of Jewish doctors and scientists and Asian doctors and scientists, because they're very hardworking, industrious people who value studying, who value higher education, and who value those fields of work. We need to be clear when people are discussing these things that there's a huge difference.
So let me elaborate on that before you switch to Mug Club, because I think this is very important. The left has wrapped itself in, we're Captain America, we're fighting the Nazis, and everybody else are Nazis on the side. That's made a lot of people get mad and say, okay, screw you, I'm a Nazi. I think that's what's happening with Nick Fuentes and people like Kanye West, Yay West.
No, they're neo-Nazis and you invite them onto your show. That's it's very easy. It's like, oh, whoa, John Doyle's here. He says he's a Christian fascist and he's saying a bunch of Christian fascist nonsense. Wow, how could that happen? Oh, Jack Pacific, you're the 1488 guy. What are you doing here? Oh, you want to talk about white supremacy? Well, I never saw this coming. Who knew?
But I'll tell you, I've been attacked massively by the ADL, all these other groups, and they wrap themselves in, we're Jews, and then they attack me in the name of Jews, which is then making a lot of people think, well, Alex Jones is good, you must be bad. So I know there are a lot of Jews out there, conservative Jews and others, that have sent letters to the ADL saying, leave Tucker Carlson alone, stop calling him an anti-Semite, it's not true, or stop calling Donald Trump an anti-Semite. It's preposterous. He's a great friend of Israel. And so it's the weaponization of the left that is actually giving support to real Nazis by watering the whole thing down. It's very, 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 very serious. And the ADL knows exactly what they're doing. So I think people have a right to say whatever they want as long as they don't call for violence. Mm-hmm. I think if the Azog Battalion's on there doing literal hit rituals,
you still think
Twitter,
it's the Azog Battalion.
It should still be on there. so I'm not defending any of the censorship, any of that. I'm just simply saying the left weaponizing World War II that ended 76 years ago, 77, however many years ago, is very, very dangerous. And the left saying at universities, the national news, you cover it more than anybody, that being white's inherently bad, and teaching courses on that is going.
No one is saying that. What are you talking about? That's just such weird nonsense. There is no course where it's like being white is wrong. Yeah, when you go to school, they tell you that you're bad for being white. Then they make you ashamed for being white. And then the white baby looked at me and I saw the baby and it was white.
Going to then make Nazis sound legitimate because here's a bunch of leftist academics and Hollywood people, a lot of them Jews, literally trying to
in the special, where you're like, hey, just want to say Hitler's bad. We're not anti-Semitic. Just want to say, by the way, what Ye said was outrageous. Again, Hitler bad. We're not anti-Semitic. We don't love Nazis. We don't love Hitler. We're just going to say that the Jews control the media. Just slip that one in there.
Teach the majority minorities who are now the majority that, oh, white people who aren't a certain, a religious group, white people except Jews are all bad people. This is Hitlerian. This is racist. This is race-based politics on the other side. I know almost all Americans, no matter what color they are, disagree with it. Almost all Jews disagree with it. But if we look at the media and just turn it the other way, it sounds like Hitler when they're on MSNBC saying white people are inherently bad. Right. And it's going to be great when there's no more white people. That needs to stop. That is Hitlerian in the name of fighting Hitler. Do you see the psyop?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And also, where I've never heard that kind of rhetoric? I've been to many a synagogue, just to be clear. Many. Never heard that kind of hatred coming from observant Jews and Orthodox Jews, and I think it's important to delineate. It is Infowars.com. We're going to go to Mug Club.
Oh, I got to tell you right again. Look, folks, ultra-Orthodox Jews, as they call them, are super right-wing, pro-America. I see their views. I'm like 90 coming together, second generation in Dallas. Watch that. The drapes.
Then for Nazis.
All right. Dick pills, dick pills, dick pills. Have you all got dick pills? Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Juste, we shall spend many a generations building mighty cathedrals in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your oafish jesters, here to offer you a laugh at any opportunity. To our brave knights of the Round Table, Rachel K., Izzy Solidarity, Victoria Bell, Sebastian Demmel, Mark Harmon, Benji Arney, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Everything Important, Hegbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Doug Cady, Daniel Sutton, Jenna Tao, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevbot EXE, Brian Ephraim, Anthropophojack, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Ralph Parler, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Todd Buckingham, and Todd La Jeunesse. We salute our valiant heroes off to fight injustice everywhere.